And also, Bob, you know,
I had no.
So I just wanted to add on there, you know, the Spanish matador that's that's going to stick it to the Bears, I think here is really, if you listen to Bob Toll or you listen to the Kaufman and some of the other earnings calls from some of the home builders, I think on those calls what you really got a sense of was not that things are improving in the housing market, but that the rate of deceleration, the housing market is not collapsing, that perhaps that we've stabilized here. The housing stocks have been on a real tear, killing the Bears here for a little while because they've been telling you the imminent collapse of the housing sector. What was most interesting, though, is that there seems to be some sort of stabilization in the housing sector, which I think bodes well going forward.
Noah, what are you buying right now?
Globally, I still like the global cell phone companies. China Mobile is my favorite there. I really like the biotech index. I think biotech on a valuation basis is back to where it was on a relative valuation to where it was in the early 1990s, and I see a lot more takeovers and a lot of new products coming in the biotech space. So some of the big names in there, like a Genentech or Celgene, to me still look good. And so also selected retailers. I think that, you know, I don't see the collapse of the consumer. Retail sales have been strong. So names like Coach and Dick's Sporting Goods still look very good to me.
You know, Barry Ritholtz, one of the greatest stories never told about this bull market is the subject of liquidity. But it isn't liquidity coming from central banks, because they've been tightening for the last year or two. It's liquidity from record-breaking after-tax profits and especially net cash flows. We have a chart, net cash flows as a share of gross domestic product, 10.4%, World War II high. It's a phenomenal number, 1.2 trillion in round numbers. Now, that's not going to melt away, and I notice, Barry, you're worried about a slowdown in earnings growth, and I don't know why, because slowdowns don't move it as long as the level is high. Corporate profits and cash flows are driving this thing, Barry.
Well, you know, we're looking at this as a reversion to the mean. You're at a record level of as a percentage of GDP, as you mentioned. However, that tends to come back to historical averages. You also have personal income at a record low as a percentage of GDP. So we're starting to see Bernanke talk about being concerned about increases in labor costs, both benefits and salaries, and that's going to take a little bit of shine off of the earnings. This is very likely to be the first quarter in 17 quarters where the S&P 500 will not be earning double-digit year-over-year profits. So yeah, growth is still there, but it's decelerating.
Barry, if that's happening, why are we at new highs? Why are the markets at new highs, recognizing the fact that the slowdown is occurring?
You see, Robert, that is so important because this will make about the 9th consecutive quarter that so many people have underestimated what earnings and cash flows do. And if I'm wrong about that, it'll be about the 15th consecutive quarter. It's a constant refrain. Ralph, it's part of the greatest story never told. People just don't want to believe the positives.
Absolutely right. And here we are. Bob's right. They were at all-time new highs in some of the indices, and people are not happy. But my argument is that the names that are coming to the fore now, we haven't seen them in a while, like Sun Microsystems, and I don't know if I mentioned Xerox a minute ago, or Hercules or Avon Products. Larry, that's the leadership, and that's what's going to lead the big averages, because they're in the averages.
A couple quickies here. First of all, from your know-how, how long will this go? What's your horizon here for the bull?
Oh, I've got at least another year, maybe 2 years for this bull.
And so it would be up, what, another 15 or 20% or greater than that?
Oh, more than that. Yeah.
Second, related question, what are you kicking out right now? Is there sectors or stocks you want to kick out of the portfolio?
Yeah, I hear everybody's commentary on the home builders. I think maybe they're tradable here, but I think I'd be lightening up on any rally. Number one. And number two, although the transportation average is doing great, I appreciate what it's doing, I think with the rise in oil prices, maybe you look at some of those truckers to lighten up.
Bob Pisani, didn't railroads do very well today again?
Yes, CSX hit a new high as well. The railroads are doing great because they're transporting more materials. The coal business is expanding. Business from China is huge. They're moving all those goods from Los Angeles all around the country that the Chinese are bringing in. And, of course, there's other raw materials that they have to transport. Let me just say something very quickly about the global market. They said that a debacle in emerging markets were going to bring everything down. We had a mess in Thailand 2 months ago where they came out and said they tried to restrict capital flow. Everyone said, that's it. It's over. The whole thing is over. Wrong. Didn't happen. Russia drops 10% when the commodity markets dropped a couple months ago. They said, that's it, the whole thing's over. It didn't happen. Why? Because global markets are more disciplined. You don't see the crazy flight out of these emerging markets that you used to see. More liquidity, more discipline.
And Barry Ritholtz, speaking of global markets,
yes,
did people in the stock market take comfort today from two international events? Number one, a possible deal to disarm North Korea. Now, Reagan always said trust but verify, so I'm with that. But a possible deal to take some of the tensions out of North Korea. And secondly, President Bush told C-SPAN in an interview that we aren't going to war with Iran. He said we're going to try to negotiate with Iran, kill or capture in Iraq, but we're not going to war in Iran. Could that have had a positive mood music effect on the markets today?
Well, certainly North Korea was a surprise. No one was really expecting that. On Iran, I think that whole sector of the world, people are a little nervous about. We kind of heard similar noise before the Iraq invasion. I don't think we're going to war with Iran, but I think the jury is still out with that. The one thing I would ask Bob, talking about how you'd explain this with markets at a record high, just a rumor of a takeover of Alcoa sent markets off to the races. That doesn't imply a whole lot of bearishness. That implies a little bit of speculative juice flowing, and you have to keep your eye on that.
But Bob Pisani, as you answer that, let me throw this in too. Isn't there a huge shrinkage of stock between the private equity deals, 4%. The M&A deals, the stock buybacks?
Yes.
Stock is shrinking, for heaven's sake.
Every day, I'm down here on the floor. I see it. Every day, companies are buying back their own stock. It's a tremendous boost for the markets overall.
All right, that's what you get at a 15% marginal tax rate on capital gains, folks. Thanks to Barry Ritholtz, Noah Blackstein, Ralph Acampora, and Bob Pisani.